My name is John Rijsman, and I'm from Belgium, basically. I did my studies in Louvain in a very traditional positivist tradition. I was trained as an experimental social psychologist in a place that was recognized very much as being a center of excellence in that domain. And that's how I developed professionally. I went to the United States, came back then to the Netherlands, did decades of research in the classic positivist sense of the word, even became editor of the European Journal, which is a quite traditional positivist journal. So that domain is very familiar to me, and I still like it to some extent. There are good things in it, but it became obvious to me that it is also limited, especially in its generative abilities. And it was a blessing of life to meet Ken Gergen, who became a close friend and got an honorary degree in my university in Tilburg in 1987, and became a friend and colleague and a sort of source of inspiration. And it became more and more obvious to me that this development was what I needed professionally to be able to do what I always felt that was necessary to do, that is to integrate different voices, the academic voice and the voice of experienced practitioners, the tacit knowledge, and to kind of deal with them in a balanced way, not objectifying, othering one voice to solidify, to strengthen my own subjectivity, my superiority if you wish, but to be able to be competent in the world and do what I felt I needed to do, because the first real symptoms of a necessity for change became when alumni, people that I had trained at the university, came back at me like 10 years later and asked me questions about their profession that I felt I was not able to answer properly. And that was the beginning. And so more and more I started to supervise students who came back, older people with a lot of experience in the Netherlands. And through meetings and contacts, one American student, Madeline Blair, that you met, came into the program, and later on we thought, let's institutionalize this, let's do it more systematically and combine all the expertise we have, many people of the Taos group, to do that together. And my university was so flexible and even, say, appreciative that it became a serious program. And for those who are not familiar with Tilburg University, I can tell you it's one of the most prestigious universities in Europe and maybe in the world. As I said in the meeting, economics, it's a human science, small human science university. Economics, law, social science, language, communication, religion, and philosophy. Economics is ranked #1, according to very traditional positivist ranking system, law even. My own group has been ranked very high, so if you can link your name and doctorate to Tilburg University, you're in very good hands.
When you think about the work now, and kind of now that you've had a lot of experience really having people develop a community of practice, what's most exciting to you as you think about where it is today and the kinds of directions you anticipate may unfold as the work continues to mature?
Well, the most exciting thing is something that permeates this whole conference. It's not easy to say it in a few words, but I will try. There is a theoretical debate on how meaning is created in scenarios of interaction. In academics, very often, the interaction that we use to talk about something is in total contradiction with the content of what we say. For example, telling ex cathedra that such kind of teaching is not very good, which is a perfect contradiction. The walk, the doing the things, the nature of the interaction between the student and me while discussing and and teaching that we should have more relational forms of education is not given, is not shaped in the way we do it. Now, what we see in this conference is that as much as possible, the kind of interaction in which we engage to talk about the validity of relational sense-making is as close as possible to the things we talk about. Now, this is also the case in these theses that we supervise. There is no rigid canonical prescription of how the thesis should be written. We look for the best possible shaping to come as close as possible to the communities of practice, which are, say, practice, application if you wish, and academia. There are different worlds, and we try to integrate them as much as possible within the process of writing and supervising the thesis itself. So I have had wonderful experiences with people older than me, more experienced than me, actually they teaching me rather than me teaching them. It's been an experience of enlightenment, I would say, and I'm so happy that what I would call at the end of my career, because I've become 65 officially in the Netherlands, that means stop. But university said go on, because that will be the case. This is the most exciting thing, that you engage in interactions with people who carry something that enriches me. I hope they have the same feeling in the other way, or other colleagues. But this is the exciting part. I think there is a gold mine of knowledge and experience that is absolutely missing in the traditional education, in which the tacit knowledge of experienced professionals is not taken as a valid message to educate people who are supposed to do the same thing afterwards. If you start to think about it, it's strange that this simple thing has not been seen clearly before.
I was just struck when you were talking about the inherent contradiction of having a certain modality of teaching, and the modality that being used for teaching actually contradicted what was being underlain. And then you talked about writing a thesis when the body of work is about dialogue. And so I'm just wondering your receptivity to thinking about thesis as dialogue. In other words, are we too still committed to kind of a written thesis, or is there this opportunity to really even think outside of the boundaries?
Of course, institutions do not change completely from one moment to the other, but we are certainly thinking about and open to, from our perspective, to variations in format. For example, it's already acceptable to include like discs with TV material and whatever as documents rather than just a written text. Of course, when the book printing was invented, that was the only possibility to have a kind of communication, but in the postmodern world we live in nowadays, how can we ignore the possibility to communicate through internet or through other media? But still, in a university context, you have to present a printed thesis, but already it can include certain non-printed material. What the future will bring in that regard, I don't know. But we can speculate that in like 20 or 30, or maybe earlier, a thesis will be like a sort of ability to scholarly defend yourself in a format that is not printed anymore. It may be a blog, or maybe, I don't know.
Emotional fluence of the medium is the message.
Yeah, well, in a way it is. I remember very much when I published my first article. As long as I just talked about these ideas with my friends and colleagues, they were like possibilities. Once they were published and printed, and I saw my first publication with my name, this became the truth.
So it solidified it in a way.
In a way it does, yes. It gives you a document that gives you authority. And the authority of your own publication is even stronger than the authority of my own voice when I speak. It's a strange experience. Nowadays, I have not that feeling anymore, but I remember very well that feeling the first day.